1 year ago today, I deleted my channel with over 8,000 subscribers, and that deletion somehow led to the creation of this channel. This is a retrospective where I discuss my thoughts during this year. There will be timestamps for each topic for whatever you're interested in hearing, and I'll probably have some gameplay or some past videos in the background. So with that out of the way, on to the video. So let's start off with how it got to that point. To be honest, 2023 had to have been my worst year on YouTube. At least as Cyanide FS, because I've had plenty of different channels trying different niches like machinima, but that's a different story. I was dealing with the aftermath of a betrayal on my old Discord server, among being in a very dark place mentally. So at the beginning of the year, when things started falling apart behind the scenes more often, that's what led to the many changes I went through that year. I cancelled the original Cyanide and Friends series and tried to do a soft reboot, or a soft reboot, since the episode Sayori's job was meant to be the start of the soft reboot, where it would instead be a cinematic universe, rather than one series altogether. This would include the DDLC series, Cyanide and Doggo, Sammy and Minotti, and Pinchot's Variety Hour. Some fans from the old channel may remember the first episode of each of those series, but I didn't re-upload them because they didn't do very well. Not to mention for the DDLC show, I had a whole new set of voice actors, which was already frustrating due to the many times I've had to recast the Dokis alone. And when one of those voice actors ended up resigning, I got frustrated and wanted to stop making DDLC videos as a whole. But I ended up recasting the Dokis once more, making Dungeons & Dokis, Doki Doki Food Battle, and Just an Average Day at the Literature Club 4. And actually, with Just an Average Day 4, I was intending to make the original hard reboot of Cyanide and Friends using Gary's mod. There would have been 2 other videos before getting started on that. But anyway, once I finished Just an Average Day 4 and uploaded it, I initially felt satisfaction. Well, as much as I could because I hate these videos, but I recall getting a comment that said something along the lines of, "You're too niche to blow up." And I'm gonna admit, I got pretty heated. I tried to simmer down the next 4 days, hoping that I'll just get over it, but I didn't. I felt intense frustration with everything that had happened and how things were going, and instead of calming down, the feeling only got worse. It got so bad that I actually blacked out my Discord profile before I deleted everything, and I just left. I left so much behind because I figured nobody would care. I was wrong. But between September 21st and October 21st, 2023, I was contemplating what to do next. I had thought of starting over on a whole new account, new name, avatar, everything, and try to do something different, or quit YouTube entirely. I figured I wasn't going to do anything DDLC related because at that point I hated it, but it was after all was said and done that I felt relief and regret. It was sometime in mid-October that I decided I would return as Cyanide FS, because I already had an established avatar, as well as the possibility of name recognition, but my feelings towards DDLC wasn't getting any better. In fact, I was still feeling resentment towards it, but I didn't want it to be this way, and I knew I had to do something to at least try and fix it. So when I officially came back, I made the video, Let's Talk About Cyanide FS, as a short explanation as to what happened. Granted, it wasn't the full story, but it was an explanation for what happened nonetheless. Even in that video, I figured I wouldn't be doing any DDLC exclusive content, and I figured the community would hate me. I'm kinda half right and half wrong on the latter. Anyway, I would end up re-uploading the first 2 Just an Average Day videos, as well as the 4th one, but rebranded it as the 3rd one because the actual 3rd installment was shit. 4 was shit too, but I'll admit it's better than 3. And about a week later, I caved and re-uploaded Cyanide reviews and the original Cyanide and Friends series, each in their own compilation. I even shared the script and audio mixdown of the original Season 2 finale Pinchot's Variety Hour, and the original planned scripts for Season 3. At this point was when I was developing the idea for the Cyanide and Friends hard reboot, especially the beginning story, or Revival as it's titled now. I even initially had a plan to bring back the self-inserts of Sammy, Doggo, Minotti, and One-Shot Pinchot. But then Minotti resigned because he didn't want to be a voice actor anymore. Thankfully he did this before I even got started. It would have been a massive problem had he done this during the show. And it was at that point where I decided to not bring back the self-inserts. I did have discussions with the remaining ones with owning the hard reboot versions of the characters, whether they had minor changes or were overhauled completely. But even then, I wasn't sure if I would bring them in like I used to with the original series. The main cast is already stacked enough with Cyanide, R3S6, the 5 Dokis, Cosmo and his party, and Wiz and Union, so adding those characters would have been too much. Now speaking of Revival, let's discuss the hard reboot. On New Year's Day 2024, I uploaded the first episode of the hard reboot and the revival story arc, A New Beginning, and it did pretty well all things considered. There were comments that were concerned due to my character's attitude towards the Dokis, which makes sense because of the original series and the previous videos. But as the first phase goes on, especially from Doki Doki Disney Club up to Hurricane Hangout, you can see Cyanide the character's hatred for the Dokis grow, which resulted in his rant at the end of Hurricane Hangout. That rant was a half-truth and a half-in-universe explanation. I say half-truth because there were some things that I wrote and said as the character that I, the IRL Cyanide, actually felt, like the fact that at that point the Dokis had 6 voice actors each, but the full truth has a lot more nuance to it, and it isn't fully on the fault of DDLC. And I say half-in-universe because there's implications that Cyanide, which by the way, if I say Cyanide, I'm talking about the character. I'm not talking in third person, I'm not The Rock. Anyway, in universe, there's implications that Cyanide made DDLC videos before Revival, but they're not the same videos uploaded on this channel, if that makes any sense. While making Phase 1 of Revival, deep down I was worried about any potential backlash, especially from the End rant and Hurricane Hangout. It got to a point where I had to spoil the result of the arc in the community post and the video. I don't know if doing so had prevented the backlash, or if I wasn't going to get any either way, but I didn't want to take any chances, so I spoiled the endgame without giving away what I was doing for the story. I'm pretty sure there were people who stopped watching the arc because some people can't differentiate between the story and the feelings, but to the people who stuck around throughout the arc, thank you, you're the real MVPs. But even then, I could have thrown the entire arc away, but I was already on the cusp of starting Phase 2, and throwing the arc away wouldn't help anything, so I kept with it. Now Phase 2 was the Konosuba part of the arc. This is where Cyanide dies and goes to the fantasy world from Konosuba, meeting Kazuma and his party, his love interest Wiz, and Union. Even Vanir, who didn't even appear in neither Cyanide reviews nor the original Cyanide and Friends series, so I thought that was an interesting addition, at least for the phase. This was also around the time that I reached 1,000 subscribers, the first time out of the 3 times it happened that I reached that milestone within 7 months, which still boggles my mind to this very day. Now this phase didn't do as well as the first phase, considering that pretty much all the videos before this phase were centered around DDLC. I will admit that it was a punch to the gut, especially when one of my favorite episodes in the entire arc, Wiz's Dangerous Errand, I wonder why, was the worst performing episode of the entire series. But despite feeling blackpilled about it, I continued forward. I did have to delay the episode for a week due to one of the voice actors having computer issues, but thankfully the delay was only 1 week rather than 1 month. So I was still able to finish the phase and the full arc on time. Once A Rift Between Worlds came out, that's when things started picking up, because the Dokis came back. And this episode would be Cyanide's second rant towards them, as he was finding happiness in the fantasy world with his new friends, but Monica, ignoring Sayori telling her about his death, finds out too late, and brings him back too late. And I had thought of an alternate timeline where Monica brings Cyanide back from the dead before he even steps foot into the fantasy world. While that action would make him forgive the Dokis, it would be empty, it wouldn't mean anything. Cyanide would assume that Monica saved him from a life that he wouldn't think he'd be happy with, but that forgiveness wouldn't have any impact like it would in the final phase. And then there's Phase 3, which was the best performing phase in the entire arc. I also had to recast some characters here, that was fun. This was the phase where I brought everyone together. When Sayori goes on a console spree with Monica's keyboard, she ends up opening a portal, but she doesn't know where it leads to. And then there's Kazuma, his party, Wiz and Union looking for Cyanide because he disappeared in the Rift Between Worlds, and they end up going through the portal. Wiz and Cyanide get their date, but was unintentionally ruined by the Dokis, and then Monica finally does the right thing and apologizes and returns the rest of Cyanide's soul, which was mentioned that she had in the Phase 1 finale, Hurricane Hangout.
I don't have your soul! Well, most of it.
What I think made finish the story and ending the arc so impactful was that we had to see the relationship between Cyanide and the Dokis deteriorate further. We had to see him hate them more, to the point where he would actually kill them if they stepped foot on his property. It took the characters going through darkness for Monica to realize that she needed to do the right thing and apologize. If Monica had only apologized, she would only have a 50-50 chance of forgiveness, and if Cyanide didn't forgive them, then the Dokis would have to accept it and move on. But Monica also gave Cyanide the soul back, which guaranteed his forgiveness and his own apology to the Dokis. And that would be the end of the Revival story arc. Now, I had to make Revival for closure purposes. If I didn't, I would still be feeling hatred and resentment towards DDLC. But now, with the arc finished, I don't hate it anymore. I don't love it like I used to, but I don't have a burning hatred for it. And honestly, I'm proud of how well Revival turned out. Sure, there are some parts that I could have done better with. Kazuma and Megumin's run cycle and the epilogue of A Rift Between Worlds come to mind. But even then, I don't hate it. Yeah, at this point in the original Cyanide and Friends was when I was actually beginning to hate the series. I don't hate this series. And I think that's because I kept it my own and stayed with my vision. That's probably one part of why I came to dislike the original series, was because it strayed away from the vision and it became something that I was no longer proud of. But now, the hard reboot is going episodic, and I'm still happy with the episodes currently out, with Male Mix-Up gaining as much traction as the Search for Cyanide FS did, which still blows my mind to this day. So where do we go from here? Well, I want to continue the Cyanide and Friends hard reboot for as long as I can, to the point where I can give it an actual ending. At the moment, the series will remain episodic, but surely there will be other arcs in the future. I also want to try streaming a little more often, as well as doing more community posts when I'm not giving updates or promoting the next episodes. I'm also hoping to grow this channel more, getting back to 8,000 subscribers and growing further to actually make this whole thing sustainable. So if you made it this far, or you skipped around and got to this part, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the retrospective. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new here. Thank you to my channel members, your support helps the channel immensely. I've been Cyanide FS, and I'll see you all next time. Take care everybody.